Here we go. Welcome into the show. This is Philadelphia Eagles Now. I'm Chase Sr. Appreciate all of you for being here with us. And on the rundown for today's show, new A.J. Brown trade buzz, the latest Jason Kelce retirement update, and a juicy report that the Philadelphia Eagles really wanted Bill Belichick if Nick Sirianni was not willing to make changes to his coaching staff and change his offensive philosophy. All that coming up, but let's start with story number one, and that is the latest around A.J. Brown, the Philadelphia Eagles' #1 wide receiver. Him and Devontae Smith went on the Up and Adams show with Kay Adams today, and of course, Kay Adams, with all this internet buzz around A.J. Brown and the trade rumors that are out there, she asked him about what this offseason is going to look like for a guy who has had two fantastic seasons in his first two seasons as a Philadelphia Eagle. Smitty said A.J. Brown is not going anywhere when Kay Adams asked A.J. Brown if he thinks that he's going to get dealt. Brown said, it's a business. You have to be prepared for anything. And I think there's an important thing to decipher here. You have social media buzz where there are random Twitter accounts like NFL Rooms who will say A.J. Brown could get traded. And then there's reality. There's the facts. The Philadelphia Eagles, ladies and gentlemen, are not trading A.J. Brown. You don't trade away Special because he was frustrated when everybody on this team was also frustrated. Now, you can go ahead and you can try to pull something and extract something out of this quote that we're about to show you right now because Brown was on a little bit of a media tour, and right now a lot of media types and athletes do this in the lead up to the Super Bowl over the next 2 weeks. But A.J. Brown with Sports Illustrated, he's asked, you're prepared, obviously, to be catching passes with the Eagles next year? A.J. Brown with the answer. I'm prepared to focus on my family at home and get better in the offseason, then just see where this thing goes. It's chatter, though. So he doesn't directly say, I'm not getting traded, but he does say it's chatter. And he avoids the question because it's ridiculous to think about A.J. Brown getting dealt. Why would he want out of Philadelphia? He's playing alongside his best friend in Jalen Hurts. He's really tight with Devontae Smith. The Eagles' offensive line is really good. And they bring in a new offensive coordinator who's creative, going to bring a lot of pre-snap motion, modern concepts. Eagles are going to be a balanced offensive unit. He's widely respected, is Kellen Moore, across the NFL. And A.J. Brown has had back-to-back career years in Philadelphia where the city has loved him, the organization has loved him. They gave him a contract extension, and he's in a really good situation right now. Look at what he did in 2022 as well as in 2023. He comes to Philly after that draft night trade, 145 targets in 2022, 88 catches, nearly 1,500 yards, 11 touchdowns, yards per catch at 17. Did the Eagles' offense get a little bit stale? Yeah. But did that cause Brown's numbers to decline? No. His targets went up by 13. His catches went up from 88 to 106. His yards did go down, but the explosive nature of this offense decreased a little bit. He still had 7 touchdowns, and his yards per catch at 13.7. And for any wide receiver out there, your job is always made easier when you're playing alongside another dog. And Devontae Smith is a very good wide receiver in this league. Look at what both of these did in a down year for this Eagles offense. Can you imagine what they can do if they get back on track with the better play caller, who's better situationally, who has more experience, and Kellen Moore as compared to Brian Johnson, and the scheme is going to be a little bit different? Because I give Nick Sirianni credit for changing his offensive philosophy. I'm really excited to see this new Eagles passing attack, and I think it's going to benefit A.J. Brown. I think it's going to benefit Devontae Smith. It's going to bring the best out of Jalen Hurts. He still had a pretty solid year, not to the standard of being paid like a $255 million quarterback, but the offensive play calling and the scheme sucked. And next year, I think it's going to be better, and I think A.J. Brown's going to be a part of that. Make sure you subscribe to the show for year-round coverage of the Birds. We're closing in on 72,000 subscribers. I will be in Las Vegas next week on Super Bowl Radio Row, providing you with fantastic coverage. You don't want to miss it, so that's why you hit that sub button. So we talked about A.J. Brown here. Next up, a Jason Kelce update to get to, and also, did the Eagles want Bill Belichick if it didn't work out with Nick Sirianni? Stay tuned for those latter two stories. But first, make sure you sign up with Prize Picks. Prize Picks is making daily fantasy sports extremely easy for all of you, and they have a great deal. $100 deposit match at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use the code CLNS. This is daily fantasy sports made easy. You pick 2 or more players, you choose more or less on their projected stats, and now you have the NFL, NBA, NHL, college basketball, multiple sports in session. You can combine your picks. But there's one more big game left on the NFL calendar. That is Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas between Kansas City and San Francisco. Here are my selections for the big game. Patrick Mahomes more than a half passing yard. You heard that right. Prize Picks runs a lot of specials. It's easy to win. Isaiah Pacheco more than a half combined touchdown, and Brock Purdy more than 248.5 passing yards. Prize Picks, the largest independently run daily fantasy sports app in North America. $100 deposit match when you plug in that link as well as that promo code. All that information available for you in the comment section and in the show notes right here on Eagles Now. To Jason Kelce now. Is there a chance of a return for a future Hall of Fame center who's been the backbone of this organization and a pillar of this franchise? Jason Kelce, and I kind of expected this, seems to be having a difficult time deciding on his future. He did admit in a recent interview after the Kansas City Chiefs and his brother Travis Kelce punched their ticket to the Super Bowl once again. That's 4 Super Bowl appearances in 5 years for the Chiefs. What a run. That it's going to be hard to retire after seeing his brother advance to the big stage once again. Here's a quote from Jason Kelce on top of that. The game continues to be difficult to play. Selfishly, physically, it's a grueling sport, and it has its problems with trying to play it the order that you get, but it's hard. It's really hard, I'll be honest with you. He also said the other day he still wants to be a member of this organization, and he believes that we, as in the Philadelphia Eagles, can prove a lot of people wrong and get back on track under Nick Sirianni in 2024. Let's all say it together. I just want a Jason Kelce farewell tour. I think we deserve that. Not that Jason Kelce owes us anything because he's already put in 13 years of service playing for the Eagles, but I think it would be cool, I guess is a better way to put it, to know that going into 2024, it would be the final year for Jason Kelce. I think that could rally the players. It could motivate them and the coaches. So let's all say it together. One more year. One more year. One more year. Number 62. You're going to make it to the Eagles Hall of Fame. You're going to make it to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I think 62 should be retired. And I think you in the Mummers gear should be a statue outside of Lincoln Financial Field. But one more year, you just were a first-team All-Pro in year 13. Now, here's this from Jeff McClain of the Philadelphia Inquirer while on 97.5 The Fanatic. And this is pretty interesting as well. He talks about Jason Kelce and Fletcher Cox. I still think Jason is leaning toward retirement. Obviously, he will take some time and think about it. The same applies to Fletcher Cox. He has not said anything, but other players have. And from what I am hearing behind the scenes, he is probably leaning towards retirement as well. That's a little bit of a surprise for Fletcher Cox to also potentially retire. And it would just be a completely different look for this Eagles organization if number 62 and number 91 are not a part of this team because they've been members of this organization for more than a decade. Jason Kelce was drafted in 2011. Fletcher Cox in 2012. And for Kelce, what a year. For Fletcher Cox, he had a really good year as well. For Kelce, overall Pro Football Focus grade of 80.7, pass blocking grade of 72.6, run blocking grade as he just does such a great job on those pull blocks of 86.2, 1 sack allowed, 1 hit allowed, only 12 pressures on more than 1,100 snaps. And then for Fletcher Cox, he had an overall Pro Football Focus grade of 75.7, pass rush grade of 72.4, notched 23 quarterback hurries, 13 quarterback hits, 43 pressures, and 5 sacks. Really good year for him. You wonder if he fits inside Vic Fangio's new scheme, if he does decide to return. But either way, they're going to go down as Eagles legends regardless of if they decide to hang it up or not. With that, let me ask you this. Your favorite Eagle of all time? Jason Kelce's up there for me. He's number 2 behind Brian Dawkins. You let me know by dropping a name down in the comment section. Bill Belichick interest. Let's round out the show with that. Greg Bedard of the Boston Sports Journal said the Eagles were interested. This week, he's been down at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, and these are some of the things that he's been hearing. And this is interesting, of course, to talk about. Obviously, we know Nick Sirianni is coming back, but it gives you a peek into maybe what the Eagles organization was thinking, as Howie Roseman is very close with Bill Belichick. He has respect for Belichick, and then Belichick has that mutual understanding and respect for Howie Roseman. So a lot of people thought that if the Eagles were to move on from Nick Sirianni, they could work very seamlessly together. Here's a direct quote from Greg Bedard. Probably the most interesting thing that I've heard, and again, this is just Senior Bowl rumor mill, is that the Eagles were very interested in Belichick if things did not work out with Nick Sirianni, and they could be at the front of the line if things go again poorly like they did last year, this year, here in 2024. For many reasons, because of the Eagles' collapse, bringing back Nick Sirianni, you want to see Jalen Hurts get back on track. There was some drama inside the locker room this season in 2023. This next offseason, combined with Howie Roseman needing to do a better job of addressing weaknesses and building up this roster, it's going to be a fascinating offseason. And if the Eagles do fall apart again, we're going to hear about Bill Belichick again. And how about this name that I'll throw out there? Ben Johnson, Detroit Lions offensive coordinator, looked at as one of the best up-and-coming offensive minds in the game. He decided to go back to Detroit, and he didn't go to the Commanders. He didn't go to Seattle. Washington, a poorly run organization for a really long time. Maybe that's not going to be the case with Joshua Harris, but the Eagles, a better, more successful organization than both Seattle and Washington. Maybe Ben Johnson or Bill Belichick could be a candidate if things go awry in 2024 and Nick Sirianni gets canned going into year 4 of his 5-year contract. Give me a follow on social media. All of my content's been taken off and popping on both platforms. I'm on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Chase_Senior, 10,000 followers there. And then I'm on Instagram as well, at Chase_Senior, closing in on 15,000 followers.